What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we're going to do something really fun. We're going to talk about studios that if Sony were to buy, what would they buy? And I do want to make sure I come off this the right way with people, so we're going to get to all of that in just a second. But really quickly, I do want to promote two different things. One, our Discord, if you guys haven't already joined, link for it will be in the description below. And secondly, if you guys haven't already subscribed to this channel, red button right below the video. If you guys come to hate me or just not agree with me too much down the line, you can always unsubscribe. So again, if you guys aren't already subscribed, red button right there at the bottom. All right, so here's the deal. Let's make sure we clear all bases first. Firstly, I am not saying that Sony needs to go out tomorrow and do it. I know there's things on different forums that say, okay, so there's like petitions for Sony to like buy studios. I'm not demanding that Sony goes to buy these studios tomorrow. I'm not saying that these are going to happen. I'm not saying that Sony needs to do it in order to compete. Like I said, I tried to make it as clear as I could in yesterday's video about Microsoft with Bethesda. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if these games are even exclusive to Xbox. We'll see if it, gets them a huge leg up. All that different stuff. Those are things that we just have to see in the future. But I know I had some people asking me for this, and luckily I had already thought of it, and I was ready to go. So here's the deal. Bethesda being bought, whether it's exclusive to Microsoft, their games or not, is probably the biggest purchase we've ever seen. It literally shakes up. And I saw people say, with this purchase, it changes the area that we think, when we say, okay, Warner Bros. Games is $4 billion, and it's like, that's a lot of money. You know what I mean? If they do that, will they be able to do anything else? Is it worth it? All this stuff. That's a lot, okay? Now we know that Microsoft is willing to just go out there and pay $7.5 billion in cash, which is a cash value, or a cash transaction, by the way, to get Bethesda. So it does change the scope. The scope is actually where I was looking for a minute ago. It changes the scope of all future purchases. It does mean that pretty much any company, I would say, is on the table with some exceptions. So let's look at Sony. The problem here is this. I can't find any, and you guys can let me know in the comments below. I can't find anywhere how much Microsoft's gaming division specifically makes. But I know Microsoft makes an insane amount of money. I believe their last financial year, their operating revenue, so the money that they had stored away that they could do whatever with, for the most, obviously there's a lot of other technicalities, was I believe $55 billion. Sony's was $2 billion. Okay? Now, I'm not saying Sony's worse, and I'm not saying Xbox or Microsoft is better. I'm saying Sony, you can very easily find their gaming division, how much operating revenue they have, how much, basically excess money they have, versus Microsoft. With Microsoft, again, is everything. And we know Microsoft is a lot more than it's not like Xbox is making $55 billion while PlayStation is making $2 billion. That's just not how it is. But you got to think about that. So Sony does not have now, they are rich, they have a lot of money, but they do not have infinite amount of money to just go tossing around at any publisher they please. So this is not like the lottery where we just say, okay, well, just go off and buy EA or Ubisoft and fix them, and then there you go. You've automatically, you've won up to Microsoft. They can't do that. And so with that being in mind, let's go over this. EA, Ubisoft, and Activision, I would say, are very, very off the board. Okay, Warner Bros. Games, I'd say they're pretty much off the board. They've taken themselves. Could they, want to sell later? Definitely possible. It's definitely something they may do. But as of right now, we have to kind of take them off the board. Now, there's a couple that a lot of people are throwing out there. I do want to address all of them, and then I want to throw out some ones that people aren't really talking about. Take-Two. Take-Two has been one that's been linked with Sony for a very, very long time. Now, that would, I would say, completely even out, if not do better than Bethesda. Look, again, Bethesda was a lot of money. They have a lot of very popular games. But if you really think about it, and I'm not saying, because I know I'm going to get this. I don't want to pick on these games, but you got to think. Fallout's been a disaster for years. Elder Scrolls, okay, you can probably bank on that being solid. Starfield, we don't know. Doom has been very, very good, but it's not for everybody, okay? Prey is not for everybody. Wolfenstein, the Youngblood, the 2.5 was very not well received. Wolfenstein in general was well received. So, you go through them and you say, okay, Elder Scrolls is obviously the grand prize. Fallout's probably second, okay? But Fallout's been in I would say, a terrible state since New Vegas, which they also have Obsidian, so congrats on that, okay? So again, I'm not picking at them, but if we want to and we say, okay, well, how can Sony compete? Well, if you buy Take-Two, you get a lot of stuff. You get BioShocks, you get the Mafia games, you get GTA, and you get Red Dead. Any one of them. Now, I don't think Mafia would equal out Elder Scrolls, but I would say GTA, obviously, completely destroys it. Red Dead completely destroys it. Even like a BioShock, I would say would even out a lot of the Bethesda studios, except for maybe Fallout and Elder Scrolls. But maybe it matches those two. So is that a good idea? Yes. If you're Sony, you should be thinking about it. The problem is, Take-Two is extremely, extremely expensive. Now, their operating revenue is actually not all that high. But in terms of how much they cost, they could ultimately cost more than Sony has. They could cost 8 to 10. I saw some things out there. They could cost upwards of like 10 to 12 billion dollars to buy. Okay? Now, they were being thrown around. There was, back when Take-Two was like on the board for potentially, people were linking them to Sony. I can't remember any numbers. If you guys remember numbers that maybe were being thrown around, definitely let me know in the comments. But look, do you have to cap it at like $2 billion? Like, are we assuming that Sony's going to take all of the money they have in their pockets? Their board meetings, they're saying, okay, empty out your pockets. We need that spare change so we can go over and buy some studios. If you're assuming that, it's tough. They've made, and I've seen people say this, again, $7.5 billion for Microsoft to buy Bethesda. Sony made $7.5 billion the last, 2.5 years. That's insane. So, just factually, Sony does not have as much as, Microsoft can do these things. Sony has to be smarter. Sony has to go, I feel like, and get studios that maybe are not all that well known, but can make some really amazing stuff and swallow them before they become big. Honestly, it's kind of even like sports. There's teams that can spend to the cap, get the best players in the, they can sign the free agents, all that stuff. But even if you don't want to spend all your money, if you're good at drafting, if you're good at scout, basically the same thing. If you can find these gems that others just can't do, maybe because they're focusing too much on the big prize that's right in front of their face. If you can focus on the other stuff, you can get bargain deals. And honestly, Sony may be in that spot. So Take-Two is tough. Yes, that would completely even it out. Is it possible? Yeah. Is it likely? I would say no. I would honestly say no. I've seen people say Konami. Okay, problem with Konami is this. Why are you buying them? I would honestly prefer them to just say, I don't know how much Konami costs, but I would say save your money, because in all reality, you would be getting it for Silent Hill, which we already have credible enough, info that they're making an exclusive game anyway by just taking. Konami is in the business of licensing out their properties. So you don't need to buy them. You just need to say, we'll make you a deal. We'll make a game for you in this license. We'll make a Metal Gear for you. It's got to be exclusive. We'll give you this money, but you're still your own thing. That's really what Konami is doing. And in fact, they've been doing that for years, and they're probably doing it with Silent Hill. So to get Konami, why? For Silent Hill, they're already doing it. For Metal Gear, without Kojima, I don't really think Metal Gear is anything. Now you could say, could you go to Hideo Kojima and say, hey, we got you a present, we bought Konami. So now you're in charge of the company that was in charge of you. That would be like an amazing birthday gift for him if they're looking to give him a gift one year. But I don't, I don't really see a purpose of getting Konami past that. Now, there's other ones. I know I threw some on the thumbnail to kind of maybe attract you guys. I was thinking of Capcom. Capcom is not the most expensive, company in the world. They would be pretty costly. Would they equal out Bethesda? I truly don't think so. They do have some really big games, but they're, I feel like, risky because they aren't slam dunks. You could say Bethesda's the same thing, though, so maybe I would just argue that I shouldn't have said that in the first place, but I don't know. They have deals with Nintendo, they've had deals with Sony, they've had deals with Microsoft. You could say Bethesda's had a lot of deals with Sony as well, and Microsoft just goes in there, interrupts the board meeting, and says, hey, we're going to take you out back, and we're just going to start buying you. You know what I mean? So, you could argue all those things, too. Capcom is, I think, an oddball one. I know I put in the thumbnail Telltale. So, Telltale, look, again, when you look at the big ones, you can I guess even think THQ. That would give you a lot of properties and games, but it doesn't necessarily equate to massive quality. I feel like that's kind of THQ's gig, where it's like, we have about 500,000 things, and we can put out 30 games a year, and they'll all be solid, but they're not going to win Game of the Years. They're not going to be the best games of all time. So do you do it? Are they too expensive? So that's a thing to keep in mind. And then again, when you look at it, okay, you have Activision. You're not getting Activision. You have EA. You're not getting EA, and you probably don't want them. You have Ubisoft. You're not getting Ubisoft. Square Enix. Square Enix is one that I've thought about that I think would be not Take-Two, less expensive. I believe Square Enix's market value is actually around like $8 billion. So it may cost $8 billion. It would probably be close to equal to Bethesda's cost to get Square Enix. I think that it would almost entirely match out. Again, does Square Enix have a Elder Scrolls? No. But in all reality, you're not going to get an Elder Scrolls unless you get like a GTA or Red Dead. You know what I mean? I mean, there's just nothing, I think, in terms of sales, in terms of how many, these units, they sold a lot of Elder Scrolls, okay? So if you want to match that, or Fallout, if you want to match that, the only thing I can really think of is GTA or Red Dead. Those are really the only two games I think can even get close. I think it would actually completely destroy them, but those are the only two. So Square Enix gets you Final Fantasy, gets you Kingdom Hearts, and gets you a lot of other things. Smaller things, but Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy are probably two of the top things. Is that possible? I mean, that's tough. That's really, really tough. I would say no, and I would say no for Take-Two, but Microsoft just bought Bethesda, so really all rules are out the window. Telltale, that's one of those, okay, you start to look at the big, again, so we ruled them out. EA, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Take-Two, Warner Bros. All of these, yes or no, you can answer. But then after that, you got to start going to smaller publishers. In all reality, there's not all that many. Telltale is one that absolutely, in my mind, sticks out. They are not a slam dunk for quality. They make a lot of bad stuff, but they also make a lot of good stuff. And what do they make? Story-driven kind of games. So it's tough. I know I'm, by the way, only really saying publishers. You could say developers, and those are, by the way, equally. There's a lot of independent developers, okay? Like Blue Point is actually not even owned by PlayStation, which, to be honest, PlayStation guy right here, I didn't even know. I just assumed they always own them, but it's just like a deal that they have. So there are companies or development teams that they probably should buy. Blue Point's one of them. Housemarque was one of them 5 years ago, and they should have done it. Quantic Dream was one of them several years ago, before they did all their stuff. So, I mean, they could buy developers, honestly, to match what Microsoft, if we're talking about that. Again, this is just, by the way, fun. We're having fun. We're all laughing. We're all enjoying ourselves. If they want to match Microsoft's Bethesda, transaction, I think you got to look for a publisher that owns multiple studios, not individual studios. Although, again, diamonds in the rough, just like I was saying. If Sony is trying to save money, trying to say, okay, well, we can't go out and spend $8 to $10 billion. We don't have that. We weren't going to have that for 5 years. If they don't want to do that, they may not be able to get a publisher. Maybe they can get independent studios that ultimately may make better games than Bethesda, but are not as well known. Bring them in, groom them, and then all of a sudden you have a new Naughty Dog, you have a new Santa Monica. You know what I mean? That is the way Sony may have to go. Again, I am not promoting them doing this. I'm not saying that exclusives are even a right thing. I'm saying this is a fun thing. What happened yesterday, in a way, was a lot of fun. Let's do a fun thing with Sony. That's all this is. So, guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? What would be your top? Who do you think they should buy? Who do you think they shouldn't buy? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. And like I said, if you guys haven't joined our Discord, link for it will be in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.